Hello everyone. Today's subject isn't a clock for once. Today's subject is a watch. And it is this watch, which is like a 40s, 50s style chronograph. It is made by Chronograph Swiss, and it also notes on the dial that it is anti-magnetic. Anti-magnetic refers to the hairspring that is made from a special material that is less subjectable to magnetism. Does this mean that the watch can withstand high magnetism? No, it will still ruin the watch. It is just less susceptible to it. It is not like a Rolex Milgauss, which is specifically shielded for magnetic influences. No, this is just the hairspring that is made from special material that is less susceptible to magnetism. So yeah, if we have usually a watch in this kind of case from the 40s, 50s, golden case in this case, you would suspect that it's a landreon movement, but it isn't. That's what makes this interesting. This is a Venus 170 movement, and the Venus 170 movement packs two rather special things. Definitely for a watch from the 50s, because, yeah, I know which movement it is, so I already know it's a watch from the 50s. First of all, it's a column wheel, or pillar wheel, as it, like here you can see the pillar wheel. So these days, if you have a chronograph, like a modern chronograph with a column wheel, it is something considered special. Back in the day, column wheels, or like they were referred to in the 50s, pillar wheel, but it's exactly the same thing, then yeah, it was less special. Definitely was not as commonly used. But what does one replace the pillar wheel for? So in this case, you have here your pillar wheel, and this is basically, if you start or stop the chronograph, this is basically what it dictates the states of all the levers. What's more commonly seen, and what you often see in the landreon watches, is that there's just a wheel with a lot of cams on it that move those levers around. I'm later going to show it under the microscope how those levers move around, and probably do the same with the landreon movement in the future. Another thing that's special about this movement is that it has a swivel pinion. So under here there's a small pinion, and it gets moved by this bridge, and it engages and disengages the chronograph movement from the rest of the movement. What you are more likely to see in all the chronographs is that it's just a gear that moves back and forth. So there will be a gear here that's connected to the second hand gear, and there's another gear that bridges in between them. That's what you more commonly would see in a landreon movement, and like I said before, one day I'm going to put a landreon movement under the microscope. But now that you know what makes this movement special, I will put it under a microscope and I will explain everything in detail, and I'm going to do it side by side. So I'm going to put on one side the back of the movement, and on the other side the front of the movement, so you can see what's happening on the back and what's happening to the dials in the front. So, onto the microscope. So, here we are on the microscope, and I would just say enjoy for a bit before I start talking again. So, now that we've enjoyed it for a bit, let's take a look at what we have here before we switch to the side-of-side vision. So, we have here the column wheel. That's what I talked about earlier. Or pillar wheel, like it was commonly referred to in the 1950s. We have here the swivel pinion, which I talked about earlier, so you can see it is this bridge here that swivels the pinion. So, basically, you can see that the swivel pinion is now turning because the swivel pinion is attached to the main movement. So we can see here the escapement of the main movement, and then this picks up of the gear train of the main movement somewhere. If I press start, which I'm going to do in a bit, then where's my... If I press start, then this swivel pinion will swivel towards this gear here, and this gear is attached to the second hand of the chronograph on the dial, which you're going to see in a bit. When this has turned one rotation, 1 full minute, it will engage with this gear here, which will move this gear 1 step, which will move the minute hand of the chronograph 1 step. You can see the little spring here, and this spring makes sure that it's only 1 step. And it will also locks the gear into place, so the minute hand of the chronograph can't move around freely. You can see here that the second hand is locked by this stopper here. So when I'm going to start it, we're going to switch to side-of-side vision, but you can also see that the pillar wheel is going to make sure that everything is in the correct position. So once I press start, the stop will move away, the swivel pinion will engage, and everything will start doing its thing. Later on we will go on to start, stop, reset, but for now it's just starting. What's also really which is really not something that's really common, is that in this this chronograph, the start and stop is with the same button. On most older chronographs for this 50s style, the start and stop is on 2 different buttons, but here it's on the same button. So let's go to side-by-side vision and let's start this thing. So when this part, the part of the gear with a hole in it, comes near this gear, pay close attention, because you are going to see it jump. And you're also going to see the second hand jump on the dial, the minute hand jump on the dial. So there you had it. That was the jump. Let's let it go by one more time, and yeah, I'll let you see it again in case you missed it. So there we had it again. So what we're now going to do is we're going to stop the movement. So stopping is basically just moving the swivel pinion back and then putting the brake back on. So as you can see now, the brake is here. It is barely touching. So the moment I stop it, it will just stop. Move the swivel pinion back around and block it. So let's stop it. So swivel pinion went back, brake went on, stop went on. So now, what if we need to go back to the 0 state? Well, therefore we have the reset, right? So, going into the reset mode, basically it will, of course, you need to pull the stop back, because otherwise this and this is engaged, so yeah, it will cause damage. You also need to put this one, disengage this one, and basically you can see this part here. This is the reset lever, and this will hit those heart-shaped discs you see on those gears. So let's go to side-by-side division and let's do reset. So that was the reset. So you can see the reset lever hit those heart-shaped discs, and because they always go to their home position because of the way they are shaped, yeah, they just did that. So it hits, boom, and like whether or not, like even if it hits here on the tip of the heart shape, it will always go one side or the other, and it will go to the home position. So that's the 0 position on the dial, as you see. So yeah, that is basically the workings of the chronograph, like a column wheel, swivel pinion chronograph, which is fairly cool, isn't it? So yeah, basically it is just this column wheel here is just what dictates all the movement. So yeah, that's basically all what it does. So basically you push it. I'm going to start it once more. So you can see that if I push that pusher, it just moves the column wheel one step. I'm going to do it slowly now. And it adjusts all these, then the columns basically, or the pillars, just push against all these notches on the levers, and therefore it dictates the position of everything. So right now we went from stop to start. No, we went from reset. So basically we pushed this one backwards, and you can see here there's a spring here that hold this now in this position, so it won't move until we push the reset button again. And then the other thing we did is we pulled away the stop or the brake, and we engaged the swivel pinion again. So if I go real slow again to stop it, you can see, voila, now we're back in stop. Now reset is a bit different because it engages the reset lever. So let's do that. That's the start and stop reset functionality of the Venus 170 chronograph movement. You can see here the Venus star a bit better. And what I couldn't see with my naked eye is that almost under the regulating mechanism, there's the 170. You can make out the 1. Well, I can guess it's a 7 and you can see the 0. So yeah, that's it. That's how the start and stop works on the Venus 170 chronograph. This is how it was done in the 50s already. So when they speak of a column-wheel chronograph, it is not that special. However, this is only a chronograph that is seconds and minutes. Modern chronograph also have what we call an hour totalizator, which is basically, it also counts the hours that have passed by, which makes it much more complicated. Usually, if you have that mechanism also, if the chronograph also is able to count hours, then the hour part will be on the dial side, not on the working side like everything here is now. So yeah, that was it for the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you liked this a bit of a different content, like it's still within the watchmaking, but this is just like, it's not really repair, it's basically like a dive in how something like this works. But yeah, I hope you liked it regardless. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be happy to answer them. And I'll see you in the next one. This time probably for something clock related. I probably don't have another watch by then to show you. Bye bye!